All right, good morning. Thanks for joining me on another ride with me to the gym. This one's a little bit different because I'm already at the gym. And full disclosure, I had started this topic on my drive and then it just wasn't flowing the way that I wanted to. So I'm going to do the best that I can to make it a bit more of a condensed version. So what I'm talking about today is a couple of different paths that I will go down when someone is wondering, what am I doing wrong? Because I feel like I'm doing all the right things, but I still don't see the changes that I'm looking for. I still don't see my body fat decreasing. I still don't see weight loss on the scale. So this is specifically under the umbrella of I'm not seeing changes in fat loss and or weight loss. I feel like I'm doing everything right. So first, before going down the two different paths really that I ask people to explore, we make sure that we have a clear understanding of when you say not seeing the changes that you want, how have you defined that? So let's say, just for the sake of brevity, in this case, somebody is talking about, hey, I want to be leaner, so I want to see fat loss, and I expect when I do see that fat loss, I'm also going to see some changes with the scale. I'm going to see the scale drop a bit. Okay, cool. And then second, what are we defining as doing everything right overall? And it will be things like I'm getting in about 10,000 steps. I'm making sure that I'm drinking the recommended amount of water, which generally, let's say that that's half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, then you're drinking at least 75 ounces of water. I think I did my math right. I'm getting in about 0.7 to zero point 0.8 grams of per pound of body weight. I'm getting protein in at that clip, so 0.7 to zero point 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. I'm getting my protein in. I am also lifting weights about 3 times per week, focusing on progressive overload. So I am tracking my weights that I use in the gym, my sets and reps, and I've noticed that I'm slightly increasing in those weights as I'm following a structured program like mine. I am also getting in about 2 cardio sessions per week. One is a bit more steady state. The other one is more like high intensity intervals. That one lasts me about 20 minutes. So I'm getting my cardio in, I'm getting my lifting in. Also, I'm focused on my sleep. When you say focused on your sleep, what does that mean? Well, I am getting in an average of about 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep each night. Every day is not fantastic, but for the most part, I can say that 5 out of 7 days I wake up feeling pretty refreshed and don't have too many struggles there. Worked through the ebbs and flows of what's going on, and I feel like I'm doing all those things right, that I'm still not seeing the results. I'm really not noticing any changes in my body. Okay, so 2 paths that I will go down. The first path that I will go down is pretty much the path that you'll probably see very often in the quick answers that you'll see on social media if you're watching like particular comment threads. And that path, again, the most commonly talked about one, is going to be, well, let's take a look at the accuracy of the information that you're presenting me. So when you say that you get in 10,000 steps, let's take a look at what the data says. Are we truly getting in 10,000 steps? When you say that you're sleeping about 7.5 to 8 hours per night, let's take a look at that and see what that looks like. Something else that I forgot to mention is the person says, I've been tracking my macros. And on top of just focusing on protein, I'm also tracking my overall macros and calories. Okay, well, let's take a look at that. So as we look at those particular things, we go down path number 1. Path number 1 is really I should have thought ahead of time about how to phrase it, but it's really the verification of the information that we're going on when we say, I feel like I'm doing everything right, because feeling like you're doing everything right is different than validating that your inputs are matching what your feelings are. Very often, I mean very, very often, folks are unintentionally off in what they think they've been doing and what they've actually been doing. So they may say that they're training 3 times per week, and then when we go back and we look at a calendar, a training log over the past month and a half or so, what we find is that they've been averaging about maybe 1 to 2 times that they're lifting, because they're shifting those workouts to different days based on different things that are happening. When someone says, I'm getting my protein in, let's say that their protein target is 90 grams. When we go back and we look, there's some days that are 100, and then some days that it's like 30 something. So the first path, again, is more verification, and I want to be very clear that my intention with going down the verification path is not to catch the person lying and say that you're intentionally giving me the wrong information. It's to say, well, let's make sure that we're operating with factual information, because what you're feeling and what could actually be occurring very often are going to be two different things. I remember reading a handful of studies, or it might have been a meta-analysis, that walked through like just people's diet recall and their exercise recall, and the figures were staggering with how off people typically are and what they report and what actually happens. So that would be path number one, again, the most common one. Path number two, which I don't think is the most common one, is also one that I really enjoy going down, which is, well, okay, you're doing all these things, and let's say without going back to do any sort of validation or verification that the data is there to match what you're saying is being done, talk to me about other things that are happening also. So let's walk through a typical, if this is someone who has generally like a pretty set schedule or similar type of vibe, Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Friday, whatever it might be, and then their weekends are a bit different, I'll say, walk me through an average Wednesday. And when I'm saying walk me through, I mean from the time you wake up in the morning, like walk me through that day until the time that you get in the bed and then you believe that you fall asleep. So walk me through all of the behaviors there. Then also, let's walk through a Saturday. And what we find with that is, instead of focusing on all the things that I'm doing right, we also get an understanding of what's happening outside of what we'll call the I'm doing everything right checklist. What are some of the other behaviors that are there? So one of the first things that comes to mind is going to be potentially alcohol consumption. What is that looking like? Then there's going to be, for me, I'm also going to be asking about, so what are things that you are doing outside of this checklist, like the fitness checklist, the health checklist? What are things that you're doing? What do you enjoy doing? What sort of environments are you in? What sort of folks are you hanging out with? And I'm not trying to do a judgment of character. What it is just trying to get an understanding of truly what is their lifestyle versus what are the things that you're checking off this particular list, because that particular list is not occurring in isolation. It's not like you check yourself into the I'm doing everything right job for the day, and you just go through that particular checklist and you don't have other things that are happening. Because what I find more often than not, when we go down this second path, again, which usually is not the first thing that people think of, when we go down this path of, okay, outside of this checklist, like I just want you to walk me through just your average day, not how you execute these things, just your average day. What we find is these pockets of these different other behaviors that we have in place, these habits that we already have in place that we don't recognize when we're specifically talking about how we execute the checklist. I remember having a client who was like, yeah, I hit my macros, eat very healthy, get my sleep in, get my steps in, get my water in, all this other stuff. And then when we talked about the weekends, they have a Monday through Friday job that was it was a job that was away from home. So they were at that job Monday through like Thursday night, Friday morning. Then they traveled home and they would be home with the kids and their partner for the weekend. And then as we were talking through, okay, so what's an average Saturday look like? All of a sudden it was like, well, you know what? I'm usually so worn out from the week that you know what, now that I think about it, when I'm sitting at my kid's soccer game, I'm just purely like just sitting there. I lost my lighting. I'm sitting at the soccer game. I don't really move around as much. Usually then like the kids will have like a play date, and then there's, it's a time where I don't spend as much time with my friends during the week. So we'll have other couples that'll come over to our house, and we usually will have some sort of like we'll grill out, we'll do some stuff like that. Yeah, there's usually some alcohol involved. My sleep is a little bit worse on the weekend. So we start to get a better understanding of what someone's lifestyle looks like all the way through. And so that doing everything right is often not telling us the entire story. So to wrap this up, by going down this second path, we also can get a much clearer and better understanding of how are you making adjustments when you're not having the typical day that you can go through this doing everything right checklist. So what sort of adjustments do you make in order to still make those things happen? So oftentimes what's happening is somebody's saying, I'm doing everything right on the days that I do everything right. But the days that I don't do everything right, I'm not really reporting those. Like that's not really what I'm primarily focused on. So we're expecting a very specific result when we don't have very specific inputs that are happening on a regular basis. So you might be doing everything right, it's just that it may not be done with the frequency and consistency that you believe that it is. So hopefully that made some sense. This is one of the longer ones. So if you've got comments, feedback, if it made sense, didn't make sense, you can drop that in the comments. We go get after this workout.